Hey guys, today we're going to be testing Honda's brand new CRF250RX and putting it head to head against Yamaha's YZ250FX. As most of you guys know, KTM has taken some serious market share in the off-road motorcycle market the past decade or so. And while they make awesome motocross bikes, KTM has always been very good at paying attention to the off-road racing crowd. In recent years, some of the other motorcycle manufacturers have started to pay attention and have come out with some of their own off-road race-ready motorcycles to compete with KTM. In 2015, Yamaha came out with the YZ250FX to compete with the XC line that KTM has, and it was very successful. Shortly thereafter, they came out with the YZ450FX and the 250X two-stroke model. In 2017, Honda jumped in the ring with the CRF250RX, and while we hoped for a 250RX a little sooner, we're finally getting it just barely. So for 2019, we have the CRF250RX. So just like KTM's XCF model and Yamaha's FX model, the RX was built for aggressive off-road riding and racing. And just like those bikes, it was built really close to its motocross brother. The differences that they all share that are different than the motocross line is an 18-inch rear wheel, slightly softer suspension settings, a more durable O-ring chain, kickstand, bigger fuel tank, and different ECU power settings. The Yamaha and Honda also have a skid plate, where the KTM comes with handguards. So the real question is, how does the CRF250RX stand up to the Yamaha? I've got a new YZ250FX here. It's pretty much stock other than the handguards, radiator braces, and decals. Has very low hours on it, just like our RX. Eric and I are gonna take these out and see how they do. All right, so before I get too far into this, I wanna talk about some of the specs of these two bikes and how they compare with each other. Both bikes, like I mentioned before, are built very close to their motocross brothers. Both bikes have, I guess the difference between the motocross bike is some of the off-road goodies like the 18-inch rear wheel, skid plate, kickstand, O-ring chain, things I mentioned before. And so both bikes have all that. They both have electric start. As far as weight of the two bikes, the Yamaha comes in at about 249 pounds, while the Honda comes in at 244 pounds. So only 5 pounds difference, so very close there. As far as, well, and in comparison to that, the KTM 250 XCF comes in at about 233 pounds, and that's all these bikes full of gas. So the KTM is the lightweight for sure. As far as retail pricing goes, the Honda and Yamaha are really close, just right around that $8,000 mark, where the KTM is quite a bit more. It's a good $1,000 to $1,400 more. So you're gonna pay a little bit more for that KTM. Now the biggest difference with the CRF-RX is that it's got a 5-speed close ratio transmission, where the KTM and the Yamaha have a 6-speed wide ratio transmission. So is what that means is not only does the Honda have one less gear, but its gearing is closer together. So the KTM and the KTM and the Yamaha are gonna have a lower first gear and should be quite a bit taller on top. I was pretty bummed to learn that Honda only put a 5-speed in this. I was hoping for a 6-speed. I don't mind the close ratio transmission. A lot of times I like that better, but I really wanted that 6-speed. So to give you kind of an idea on how low this first gear is and how well this thing chugs down low. I mean, I can let this thing just idle through these whoops without giving it any gas, and it'll just keep on chugging away. Now, if I just kind of let the bike idle in first gear, this thing's gonna stall out right here, where the Yamaha would chug right over that just because of that lower first gear. I think that lower first gear is gonna be real helpful, you know, if you're just riding real gnarly stuff, or if you're, you know, maybe a beginner, novice rider, that's gonna be helpful. The gearing on this really isn't bad. The first gear is taller, but it hasn't given me any problems. And we've done some pretty gnarly stuff, so I'm not real concerned about the first gear. I'm more concerned about the top speed. So, my brother and I, who are pretty much the same weight, we did some comparison on a dirt road where we got him up in 5th gear, pinned him, he went into 6th gear on his FX. So as you can see, when we were both in 5th gear, tapped, I was surprised to see that this Honda was pulling from the FX. And I think a lot of that is because this thing just revs out so far. But when my brother threw it into 6th, he started walking away. And we're talking, I mean, I didn't have a GPS or anything, but I'm guessing 3 to 4 miles an hour faster on the top speed on the Yamaha FX. So for you desert guys that are hitting high speed flats, dirt roads, things like that, where you really got to get it open, that 3-4 miles an hour is going to make a difference. So one cool feature that this Honda has is Honda calls it their launch control. So if you're starting on a cement gate or softer dirt, you can use the launch control to get better traction and a better start. Interesting. You could definitely hear that kind of cut out, kind of hit the rev limiter a little quicker. I'm gonna have to get on some hard pack stuff to give that a real test, but that's kind of a cool feature the Honda has that the Yamaha doesn't. And to go along with that, the Honda has 3 ECU maps, so you can kind of change the power, you know, right here with these buttons, this top button here. And it's the same thing, there's 3 maps. So the first map is your standard map, second map is the softer map, and then number 3, which I'm in now, is the more aggressive map. Yamahas, you can change the ECU all over the place with their little tuner that they sell. You just can't do it on the fly. So that's something to keep in mind. All right, after spending some time on both the bikes, let's talk a little bit about control, handling, just the feel of the bike. Both of them feel very comfortable. The bars feel a little bit lower on this Yamaha. As far as, you know, air goes, they're both really comfortable to sit on. You do feel the wider tank on both bikes, the wider front end, but you don't really notice that once you get riding. When you first get on the bike, you do. Now, suspension, they're more different than I thought. The Yamaha is quite a bit more plush, so you get into the rocky stuff, the little chop, this thing is so smooth through that stuff. Where the Honda, you get a little bit of feedback. And both, I've got to say, both bikes have awesome suspension. Honda's done a good job with that Showa spring fork. And Yamaha's always had these awesome SSS Kayaba forks, at least for several years. Everybody's loved these. So both great suspension, just different. Now when we get into these sand whoops right here, I got a little hill climb, but all right, when we get into the sand whoops, that Honda, because it is a little bit stiffer, definitely pounds through the whoops better. The Yamaha is a little on the soft side to be hitting that stuff real hard. Now, going back to that hill climb right there, another thing I noticed with the motors is the Yamaha definitely has a little more grunt off the bottom, which is nice, especially in the, you know, tighter technical stuff. The Honda revs out, it seems like way further than this Yamaha. So climbing a hill like that, I feel like I'm kind of hitting off the rev limiter real quick on the Yamaha, where that Honda just pulls so hard. So great both motors once again, but at the same time quite different motors. One thing I want to point out about vibration, going back and forth between the two bikes, you can definitely tell the Honda's got more vibration. If that's a big deal to you, you don't really notice until you're going back and forth, but Big Red's definitely got a little more. All right, let's talk about brakes. The Yamaha has a 10mm larger front rotor than the Honda. I've got to say, both brakes work very well. I don't know if I have really noticed between the two bikes as far as a preference. They both have a great feel. They both stop really well. I think they're pretty evenly matched when it comes to the brakes. All right guys, so we've had a fun day riding both of these bikes. We've had a few test riders, myself, Eric and his daughter, and we've all kind of come to the same conclusions about these bikes. First of all, they're both awesome bikes. If you end up with either one of these, you're going to be happy with your purchase. While they are quite a bit alike, there are some differences that I want to talk about real quick. The Yamaha, we all felt like the suspension was quite a bit softer. It felt really good going over the rocks, nice and plush. You know, you get into that tight technical stuff, it felt really good, really soft, compared to the Honda that felt a little more stiff. But when you get into the sand and the whoops, the Honda definitely stays up higher in the stroke and feels better. You can be more aggressive in that stuff. As far as engine characteristics go, again, very similar, but different. The Yamaha produces more power off the bottom, which again is really nice for that tight, technical type riding, where the Honda, though it felt good off the bottom and through the mid-range, it really rips and pulls hard on the top end. So when we got into the sand hills, hill climbs, that thing just ripped and did a better job in that stuff. One thing I want to point out on both of these bikes, in most of the areas we ride, we need spark arresters, and neither one of these bikes come with spark arresters. So that's something I'm going to have to purchase. It's going to be a lot more expensive on the Honda where you have two exhaust pipes, so that's something to consider. All right, so which bike is right for you? Well, I think both bikes are great bikes. They're both good race bikes, but I feel like the Honda has the edge when it comes to racing. You can ride it a little more aggressively, hit things a little bit harder, where the Yamaha just feels a little bit softer. So the Yamaha, I feel like, is a little bit better trail bike. If you're riding really tight technical stuff, the suspension's gonna soak up all those little bumps and rocks, and the 6-speed wide ratio transmission has a lower first gear, so you can get through some of that stuff easier. On the other hand, the Honda, you know, you can hit stuff really hard, ride it aggressive in the desert, push it a little bit faster, The only downside with this bike is I wish it had the 6th gear like the Yamaha does, because I feel like this thing really shines in the desert, pushing at those higher speeds. All right guys, so that's it. That's our CRF250RX versus the YZ250FX. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it helps you in making the right purchase when you're ready to get one of these bikes. Be sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more bike comparisons, bike builds, product spotlights, and how-tos. Thanks for watching.